Is Indiana the most annoying team in the country? We preview the Big Ten clash of number 5 Hoosiers versus number 2 Ohio State. Then we've got Menches Trenches 2.0, the reboot. We'll explain. It's Thursday, so we also have our staple. That's my guy, followed by where are the Scouts this week? And I can tell you that they're kind of off the beaten path. But my tailgating experience, it's not. And the one and only Stugotz makes his debut on the McShay show.
A couple of mensches cutting it up.
That's the spirit, Stevie boy. It's week 13 in college football, week 12 in the NFL. And how many days left until the NFL draft?
154.
Whew. Mensch, you good?
I'm good, man.
All right, let's strike up that band. All right, we don't even need a special intro here. I'm telling you, we started this McShay show, right? A month ago. And I've been waiting for this moment since the day we started. I grew up in Swampscott, Massachusetts, right? Tiny little town, affectionately known as a Jewish fisherman's village, okay? I grew up with like Dave Portnoy. We all know what he's done with Barstool. A lot of great Jewish friends. Todd Klein now just became president of Chelsea, the Chelsea Club. Congratulations, Klein. My other good friend, Jason Kalishman, just became the superintendent of schools in Swampscott. So I'm keen on the Yiddish, right? And I love every time Stugotz is like, it's a couple mensches cutting it up. And every time he says it, I think I got a mensch too. And now we got Steve Muench with another mensch, just a couple mensches cutting it up. Welcome in, Stugotz.
Thank you. I need another mensch. So it's funny because, Todd, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm happy that you guys have got the show off the ground. You guys are going. You're going strong. I did not like that 1 week. I got to be honest with you. There was a week there where you guys were ranking ahead of us. And I hate that shit, man, because I'm super competitive. And as much as I love you and as much as I love Mensch, I was super concerned because I'm like, McShay is kicking our asses, man. So
Russillo told me early on, and it's the competitor and the macho in Russillo, all the weight room stuff for him. He told me early on, don't get inflated. It's just an algorithm when you first start. You'll come back down to earth. And he's been right.
Short-lived.
We're still in the top 15, but we're not up at number 1 or 2. So
I know what Russillo was saying. I know what he's talking about. I know the algorithms, and yet I still get concerned whenever a podcast gets launched and they launch right ahead of us. It's like, it's just concerning to me.
How long are they going to hold that? Well, we appreciate your undying support. First of all, you are here. Mensch, this gives you a peek into Stugotz, right? I shoot a note like, hey, just so I'm saying it properly, like, what do you want me to say on in terms of your book? He's like, Stugotz personal record book, The Real Winners and Losers in Sports. That's the title of his new book, and we're all excited about it. But then he goes on to write to me in a text. There it is. You can see.
Yeah,
there you go. He goes on to write to me, currently number 1 in sports essays on Amazon, ahead of Greeny and Stephen A. Comes out next Tuesday. I mean, just the absolute best.
It was a total unnecessary fact that I threw in there in that text to Todd McShay. But Dan and I laugh all the time because Stephen A. and Greeny, they take writing seriously. They're writers, and they take it seriously, and it must infuriate them, Mensch, that some guys, Stugotz, is ahead of them because they put a lot of thought and effort into their book, and I promise you I did not.
Yeah, we'll get back to your book in a little bit. I've got a couple comments and thoughts. Right. I did want to start here, though. It is timely. We were going to have you on this week regardless, but it is timely.
Yep.
Unfortunately, our good friend, Steve, I'm not sure you're aware, Steve and I both played at University of Richmond with Joe Douglas. So we obviously have a personal relationship with Joe and was communicating with him even up to this morning. And as I said the other day, Joe will be just fine, and he's doing just fine. Obviously, this is not how Joe intended it. Joe poured his life into it. His family poured everything into it, supporting him. And the goal was obviously to hoist the Lombardi one day, right? And he certainly brought in a lot of talent. Like every general manager, there were a couple misses, but you can't really argue with what he did from a draft standpoint and from a talent standpoint and what's on that field right now. I'm just curious, as a lifelong suffering Jets fan, when you get the news early this week, I think it was on Tuesday, what was your response to a general manager? You don't see this very often, a general manager getting fired in the middle of the season during a bye week.
So I'm thinking kind of along the lines of what you just said, Todd. I'm like, this is a guy who created a roster that was good enough that Aaron Rodgers in his final chapter decided, hey, I'm going to go from Green Bay to one of the worst franchises in the NFL historically. And so Joe Douglas, from that aspect, through the draft, did a very good job when you consider Quinnen Williams and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner and other guys like that. He put together a good enough roster that Aaron Rodgers wanted to go there. And so that's a positive. But as you know, it's a bottom line industry, and his record has been atrocious as the Jets general manager. The one position he couldn't get right and he couldn't figure out, and he tried to do it with Aaron Rodgers towards the end, was the quarterback position. Everything else he aced, but he did not ace that position. And when the owner comes up, and by the way, I did not mind this, the reporting on this, when Woody Johnson, after week 4, is seeing what the fans are seeing in Aaron Rodgers, which is this is not the same guy. Maybe he got injured in week 2. He's not playing to the level we expected. And he suggests, because he has this talented roster, maybe Tyrod Taylor would be a better option at this stage of the season. And he is rejected. I kind of understand why Joe Douglas is gone. They should not be catering to Aaron Rodgers. I think when the owner comes in and says that, it's not a bad thought. Tyrod Taylor probably would have won more football games for the Jets than Aaron Rodgers this year. That's how bad Aaron has been. So it's just interesting. You have a guy who on one side did everything right. The roster is great. It's the most talented roster I think the Jets have ever had in 40 years of being a Jets fan. But on the other side, he just couldn't get the quarterback thing right. And that's the biggest position. You have to get that right. You don't get it right, the rest of your team doesn't matter.
Yeah, he was kind of a snake bit with Rodgers getting hurt last year, I feel like, and then not coming back as the same player, maybe. So, I think it's interesting that you're okay with Woody Johnson going in and starting to kind of interfere with who's going to play and who's not going to play. I would think that, as a fan of, my own team, I would not want the owner walking in and saying, we're going to play this guy or not that guy.
So I always criticize Woody Johnson for not taking this thing too seriously and not seeing what it is the fans are seeing. But I'm telling you, I was having that same discussion with my friends who are all Jet fans. Hey, is Tyrod... Now, listen, it's a ridiculous thing to say, but Aaron Rodgers is 40 coming off an Achilles tear. Is Tyrod Taylor a better option than Aaron Rodgers? I don't blame Woody for... He's the owner. He owns the team. When they get paychecks every 2 weeks, it's signed by Woody Johnson.
That's an impossible situation, though, man.
I know.
Yeah. And I was at the Patriots-Jets game. I told you before I was going to that game. And
I know.
And I watched that game, and my takeaway was, you ask yourself, okay, what's the problem? There were 2 problems that stood out to me. Like, defensively, they just can't tackle. And they're not physical in the interior. They're just like, they struggled to tackle. And offensively, it felt like every play was a struggle and there was a cap on what they could do because of Aaron Rodgers. So I saw it too, man. And Tyrod comes in with some of his mobility, kind of like could light a little bit of a spark for a week or 2. I could see that. Let Aaron rest. But I think Joe and more importantly, probably the coaching staff and people in the organization realize the fucking firestorm that would create, man. But Aaron Rodgers lost his mind with Green Bay when they drafted a quarterback in the future. Can you imagine they bench him?
Yes, but Todd, you cannot allow your organization to be run that way. Like, that's the problem.
No, I hear you.
And Mensch made a great point. This was all supposed to be last year. He tore his Achilles. There's nothing that Joe Douglas could do about that. So now what you're left with is a 40-year-old coming off a torn Achilles, which is very difficult to get over in your 20s, let alone your 40s. And so when you have an owner walking in and saying, hey, I think this guy gives us a better chance to win, you cannot let the inmates run the asylum. Aaron's been running that place for far too long. You can't say, hey, I don't want to offend Aaron Rodgers. Oh, that will rub Aaron the wrong way. Who the hell cares? What has Aaron Rodgers ever done for the Jets that we're so concerned about Aaron Rodgers feeling? It's absurd.
I love it.
I don't. Yeah,
It's true.
I don't have a problem with entertaining that conversation. I do have a problem with a lot of the other meddling. I mean, and we don't need to get into the nitty gritty, but some of the reporting that has come out this week, and I'm fortunate. Like I know some of the behind the scenes stories and everything else, but just if you're trusting the reporting, the decisions kind of. If you're going to handcuff your general manager, then you probably should have fired him at that point,
Right.
Yeah, I don't like the meddlesome owner either, but Woody, this is not typical, I don't think, of Woody. But for him to do this in this particular spot, it made sense to me. I understood why it is he was doing it. And I am actually surprised. I am shocked that Joe Douglas's response and the coaching staff's response was, well, Aaron's not going to take that well. Who the hell cares? I mean, at this point, why would we care how Aaron Rodgers is going to take anything? He's not playing well. And the other thing we criticized the Jets for last year, Todd, if you guys remember, when Aaron went down, they didn't have a backup plan. This year, they went out of their way to have a backup plan. And so Woody, the owner, having the audacity to walk into his office and say, hey, maybe that guy that we got as the backup is the better option. I'm okay with it. I'm surprised they catered to Aaron Rodgers.
I've spent my career at ESPN, and you were there for a while as well, dealing with a lot of intelligent people who are Jets fans, like Lee Fitting, Seth Markman, executives at ESPN at the time when I was there, yourself, Greeny, like the list goes on. So I felt like more so than any other organization, I'm dealing with intelligent fans, and like there's always that lunatic fringe, right? But there's a lot of intelligent Jets fans who are in the know in certain areas and all. So I'm curious as one of those fans, and I use the term intelligent loosely, but with you, but seriously, like you've lived this thing your whole life. Mm-hmm. What's next? Like, what do you want to see for the Jets? You don't have your head coach. You don't have your general manager who put together this talented roster. Aaron Rodgers is not likely to come back. So, like, what's next for the Jets?
It's a great question. Being a Jet fan is being part of a tortured fan base. I've been a Jet fan for 40 years. I have not seen my team play in the Super Bowl. We have been close. Like every team stumbles into some sort of like 3-year, 4-year stretch where their team is relevant. Now, we had it with Mark Sanchez, back-to-back AFC championship games.
Right.
They didn't win either. They didn't make it to a Super Bowl. We had it back in 97. They were up 10-3 at half. I think at Denver, Testaverde was the quarterback. Keyshawn played. They didn't make it then. I think we had it back in 84 with the Dolphins. Don Shula soaked the field the entire night, put the sprinklers on, slowed down the track. The Jets ended up. I still haven't forgiven Shula for that. And the Jets didn't make it then. What do I want next? I want stability. I want to stop worrying every year. New head coach, new GM, new quarterback. And I think the only guy, now I don't think he would take the job, but it'd be someone like this. I just want stability. I want the person in charge making smart football decisions. I want the person in charge not to sign Aaron Rodgers, not to sign Jordan Love in 15 years when he's well past his prime. I want that guy to be a guy that's going to make smart decisions, that knows the game, and that can hopefully get us to a Super Bowl. I just want stability. That's what I want. So is Belichick the name? Maybe. Is it Mike Vrabel? I don't know. But then I'll swing the other way because this is what Jet fans do, because we don't know exactly what our team needs because nothing has worked. The big swings on Aaron Rodgers, they haven't worked. The stability with Bill Parcells, it hasn't worked, okay? I'll swing the other way and tell you, I'd also be okay if Deion and Shedeur Sanders came to New York. I'm okay with that. But if you're asking me, stability is something that's usually important. I take Rex Ryan at this point, Todd. Like I would go back to Rex Ryan at this point. It was the greatest 6-year stretch of my life. I mean,
isn't that wild?
You sound like a desperate man.
We are. I am. Well, yes, I speak on behalf of all Jet fans, Mensch.
Yeah. What would you give up for a Jet Super Bowl? What would you trade in your life?
Like a body part?
No, I mean, would you give up a body part?
Perhaps.
Would you give a thumb up?
Golf for a year?
I would not give up golf for a year. It depends what body part we're talking about. Are we talking about like Is it a whole arm? Is it from the elbow down? Is it just a single digit? Like, what are we talking about? I'd give a
What
pinky.
about like a pinky?
I'd give a pinky.
Yeah,
I'd give a
pinky.
pinky.
Let's go with pinky.
I would.
You would.
I would give a pinky, Mitch. I would let you chop it off if the Jets just got to the Super Bowl. Yes.
I don't know if I have the stomach for it, but maybe we can do it.
Okay.
All right. The other thing that Stugotz texted me is that because I told him I want to talk about the Jets and I want your picks because you never know where he is on his picks. Wanted to talk about a couple of college games. He also texted me that I said, "Do you want to give me some of your college picks?" And he wrote back, "You might want to go NFL picks since I'm a documented 49, 29, and 2."
Listen, man,
So,
I have to care about that stuff now. I'm in a free agent year, contract year, and I'm having a killer season, man.
Well, at least you got a number one selling book.
Yeah.
What do you give me some picks, man? Give me some picks. We're heading into week 13 in college football, week 12 in the NFL. Make us some money, bud.
Okay, I'll try to make you some money. You want the college or you want the NFL? Which one do you want?
Give us a couple college. We do a lot of college here. I'll give you some of my picks as well. But then like it seems like you're on a real heater.
I am on a heater.
All right,
I
so
am
go
on
ahead.
a heater. So I think Indiana, like they have the 106th worst schedule in the easiest schedule in the country. They're playing Ohio State this weekend. They're getting 13 points. I don't think Indiana is very good. I think they'll get exposed this weekend, guys. I think Ohio State will win that game. They'll win it.
Why are you showing me your phone?
By I don't know why. I just hold things. I'm ADHD. You know me. Like I'm just all over the place. I'm scattered. And I had the picks on my phone, but now I found them on my computer and I'm making a point. And I got to point at someone. So what I'm thinking here is Ohio State's going to win by 4 touchdowns. They win by 28 points. I'm not buying that Indiana team. Yeah, they haven't played
Not even close.
Not even close. Indiana will be out of the playoff. Ohio State will be in. The other game I like in college is Colorado -3. They're at Kansas. Kansas has played better lately. Colorado has also played better lately. I just think Colorado's too talented. I think they have the playoffs kind of like in their sights. Right down the road. They could see it. Right. And so I think Colorado wins that game by 13 points on the road. In the NFL, the game that I love the most, and how
Here we go. Get your pens and paper ready, folks.
You really should. The game I love the most. Well, Todd, the Dolphins.
I'm going to actually write these down. I'm writing these down.
I'm literally writing them down.
You should. The Dolphins are -7 at home. The Patriots are good. The Patriots don't want to win. They know they're a smart team. Okay. They have good losses. They're close, but they don't win because why would you want to win at this stage in the season if you're the Patriots? The Dolphins are a totally different team when Tua is their quarterback. Everyone has now seen just how valuable Tua is to that team. They almost beat Buffalo in Buffalo. Impressive last week. So I think the Dolphins win that game at home, and they do so by 17 points and cover the spread.
17?
Yes. It's the Patriots stuff.
Yeah. You do not shy away from the big scores.
Okay. I do not. Like the Dolphins at home, when that quarterback is healthy, when Waddle, Tyreek Hill are right, and Tyreek's not right, but he's playing better because Tua is simply back. Jonnu Smith's become a big part of the offense. That offense, if you remember, when healthy at home, they would put up 42, 49, 50 points on a lot of teams, and I think they'll do that this weekend to the Patriots. The Dolphins have a lot to play for. The Patriots don't have anything to play for.
I love that running back, A-Chain, too. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's really good. They're good. They're good. They're fast. You want some more NFL picks? I'm on a heater.
Yeah.
More?
Give me 1 or 2 more.
All right, I'll give you 1 or 2 more. I like the Packers -2.5. San Francisco is banged up. Packers need the game. I think the Packers win that game. They win by 7 points over San Francisco. And the other game that I like a lot here is the Eagles -3 at the Rams. Eagles,
you just love the favorites. You're a sucker.
I have plenty of underdogs, man. I have the Chargers +3 against the Ravens, but I do like the Eagles. And here's the funny thing. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this. Nick Sirianni is in his 4th year as the Eagles head coach. The first 3 years, he took his team to the playoffs. 1 year went to the Super Bowl, was a play away from beating Patrick Mahomes. And now his team, I think, is 8-2. Nick Sirianni, the idea that Philadelphia Eagle fans want to fire that coach even after wins is patently absurd. I'm not certain he shouldn't be the coach of the year, considering all the shit he's had to go through in terms of the fans. He might be the coach of the year. And I will tell you this right now, Todd, the 4-year run that this Eagles team is on is all I'm looking for the Jets. So if they want to get rid of Sirianni, that's the guy I want in New York, okay?
We'll try to get Howie Roseman, too.
Well, he's pretty good. He's pretty. I have never, guys. This coach has had an incredible run in a city that is, they care about the football. They care about the Eagles.
I give him credit, man, because
what else
they were
could Sirianni do?
They were
it's Andy Reid all over again.
Year. He's a different cat.
Right.
He doesn't know how to handle the PR of the whole thing. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But you can't argue with to be able to that thing was splintered. The offseason reports about how but to be able to regain control and however he's done it, relying more on his quarterback and leadership and all, it's been impressive. It really has. I did not. Yes. I thought this team was going to have kind of like a Cowboys-esque year this year.
Right. And Mitch, all I'm saying is I cannot stand spoiled fan bases. Like, do you know what the Jet fan base would do for the 4-year run that the Eagles have been on, and they're continuing it? And it doesn't seem like it's going to go away because Jalen Hurts is young. That team is young. They're talented. They have drafted well. Howie Roseman is probably the top 3 at his job in the league. Fan bases would kill for what the Eagles have had the last 4 years.
Yeah, we grew up in New England. We know all about the obnoxious fan bases who are spoiled.
Yeah, and then New England got spoiled. All right, so you know Stugotz from the Dan Le Batard show with Stugotz from God Bless Football. You can download those shows, but make sure you download ours first.
Yes, and more often. Yes,
I want to talk about this book because here's my take on it. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
It's Stugotz's personal record book, and I'll admit I'm a long time fan of the show. I've listened to Dan Le Batard with Stugotz for a long, long time. Appreciate just the absolute. I mean, it's kind of similar. The guys I grew up with, the guys that we're friends with in college. It's kind of this. It's just absurdity, but you care. But there's just the day-to-day absurdity is what kind of attracts me to it. It's kind of it's my home. It's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you follow the show, you understand how absolutely asinine some of Stugotz's takes are. Like Kevin,
don't hold
Kevin, but he'll stick with him. Like Kevin Durant, he's never won a ring.
Yeah.
But why is it with this book that I know how absurd it is. I know some of the takes are going to be wild. But I still want to have it. I still want to I want it on my coffee table because it's something ridiculous to flip through and show friends and something to create conversation. So there's some beauty behind all of this, behind the insanity of it. And I'm just curious, what's I know it comes out on Tuesday, next Tuesday. Yep. Already number 1 sports essays on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what has been the reaction? I know you probably had a soft launch or, other friends and family have read it. What's been the reaction so far?
Everyone, surprisingly, they're surprised that I finished the book. Let's start there. Finished the book.
Stugotz.
Yes, I know. And I don't blame them for being surprised. I have set the bar very low for myself. That's been done by design, Todd, just so you know. When you set the bar very low, you have a better chance of exceeding all the expectations.
It's a brilliant stance
that everyone has for you. So it's funny. It was a throwaway line on ESPN radio. I don't have an actual personal record book. Okay. So I was talking about Kevin Durant and how he took the easy path, leaving Oklahoma City and went to Golden State, a team that had already won a title without him. They were doing just fine without Kevin Durant. Now, if you remember the year before Durant left, they were up 3-1 against Golden State. Oklahoma City was. That was Durant, Westbrook, and those guys. And then they couldn't get it done. And what Durant did is the complete antithesis of what Michael Jordan would have done. Michael Jordan, when he couldn't get past the Pistons, he went back, he worked harder, they added pieces, they came back, they tried again. Imagine Michael leaving the Bulls and going to the Pistons. Imagine that.
Right.
Mensch shaking his head.
Yeah.
It would never happen.
No.
Well, Durant did it. Yeah, Durant did it. And that's what he did. And so it was a throwaway line. So I said, listen, I don't care how many titles Durant wins with the Golden State Warriors, with Steph Curry, with Klay Thompson, with Draymond Green. They didn't need him. And really what he stripped us of, selfishly, is seeing Oklahoma City make that climb and come back and try again against Golden State. Because we all agree Kevin Durant is the kind of talent that doesn't need to kind of hop around city to city trying to win championships. People should be coming to Kevin Durant, not the other way around. And so I said, in my personal record book, I know Kevin Durant won 2 titles, but in my personal record book, he has won no titles because he took the easy path. That is not what sports is all about. He went to a team that was already loaded. He went to a team that had the regular season win record already, and he joined that team and won his 2 championships there and never won another. So in my personal record book, and this is what I said on ESPN radio, I said Durant has no rings. Le Batard started laughing. The guys started laughing. I remember Amin El-Hassan saying, having a personal record book, whether real or not, is one of the greatest tools in sports radio history because you can just stick everything under that umbrella.
It's undefeated.
And so that's what I have done. And so Dan Stanzik, who works at ESPN, was one of my producers back when we were at ESPN. He started transcribing all of my takes because Lord knows I'm not writing a book. Mm-hmm. And I've never wanted to write a book. I could not sit down long enough to write a book. It wasn't happening. If I wanted to write a book, I would have done it years ago when I was at ESPN, okay? But Stanzik, he did not let it go. He liked the concept so much, so he calls me during the pandemic, and he says, hey, guess what? Your personal record book. If you want to do it, it's done. I wrote the book.
That's
and
amazing.
I said, you wrote my book? And he said, yeah. He said, yeah. I transcribed all your takes, and then he tied it all together. He's a very good writer. And this was a dream of Dan Stanzik's, who's a very good friend of mine, was to write a book, was to have his name on a book. It was never a dream of mine. My dream was to be at ESPN Radio, WFAN in New York, and doing a lot of the stuff I'm doing now. I wanted to do this for him. I wanted to do this for me. And of course, I wanted to do it for the money. The book has been received.
Yeah. What percentage? This great friend of yours, Dan Stanzik, what percentage are you giving him? 4?
He's getting a little bit more than that. If I had to pie chart the things I just said to you in matter of importance, I would say 90% money, 8% me, 2% Stanzik. Okay. So God. I have Le Batard write the forward, but here's the beautiful thing. And Todd, you'll appreciate this. When you work at ESPN, you make a lot of friends, everyone, the talent at least, very, very close, and people become family to you there. Yeah. It's how you and I became close, and people support each other there. And so I reached out to Mina Kimes and Tim Kirchin and Scott Van Pelt because you're right. These takes are absolutely absurd. And so we needed some credibility. We needed some credible journalists. We needed some people who had, who thought rationally. And we needed them to rebut to some of my takes. So there are chapters in this book by Van Pelt, by Mina Kimes, by Tim Kirchin, by Stan Van Gundy, by Jay Billis, by all the people we worked with at ESPN. And what I told them to do was, hey, it's a blank page. Just take a sledgehammer to me. And, did they take a sledgehammer?
That's awesome.
And they ripped my takes apart. I have Le Batard. He wrote the forward. So we're very excited about it. It's a cool book. It's a fun book. It's easy reading. It's doing very well. And the last thing I'll say about it is we sent a bunch of copies out to many of the contributors. And I believe it was Sarah Spain reached out to me via text and said, I can't believe you finished the book. I read it. She goes, I'm more shocked that it's actually pretty good. It's a good book. It's a good book. I don't know if I had anything to do with it. They're my takes. But I think what makes it really special and unique is to have all these credible people willing to throw their names on it and willing to write rebuttals because that really helped. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And you can find it on Amazon. Go out and buy it, folks. And
great Christmas gift.
How about this? The
Hanukkah
website
gift.
he created, Stugottzbook.com. Let's just get straight to it. I love it.
That was Random House. And by the way, as Le Batard has said a million times, it's not just a random house, okay? Random House, okay? Random House published this book. I thank them.
Your wife must be like, how in the world?
Well, listen, I mean, again, 92% was the payment. And so my wife's doing just fine. I mean, my wife hasn't worked a day in her life. Okay. So
I don't think she had you pegged as a New York Times bestseller, though. Let's just put it that way.
Well, no one had me pegged as a New York Times bestseller. Let's be honest.
Well, we certainly get behind the book. Amazon, Stugottzbook.com is where you go out and get it. And I'll tell you what, he's known for talking out of both sides of his mouth. He's known for all of, everyone likes to attack him. But I will say this mention, I've said it about David Pollack. I've said it most recently about the Bear, Chris Felica, and Stugotz just touched on it. Like, the people you work with become family, and you start to lean on them. And when I was let go and the layoffs and everything, like, one of the people who reached out to me first was Stugotz. And one of the people I've talked to throughout the process and some of the advice I've gotten right here, Stugotz. And so I will always appreciate you for that, my friend.
It's been my pleasure. It's a tricky industry to navigate through.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ups and a lot of downs. We all go through it. We make a lot of sacrifices. We sacrifice a lot of family time in order to do what it is we do. And I don't think people see all that. And so it's great to have support. It's great to have people who can relate to what it is you're going through. So I just try to be there for people as often as I can, like you, Todd. And I could tell you, like when we left ESPN, that was a tricky time for us. And there were a lot of people who reached out to me, and they were there for me during that time as well. So that's what this should be all about. Unfortunately, in some spots, it's not. But most of the places, you find some pretty good people, you know?
Well, we'll always appreciate you. Can't wait to have you on again. And I'm sure I'll be jumping on with you with it's certainly not with Lebitard because he doesn't talk about the NFL draft. But I'm sure on God Bless Football. And show us the book one more time. Let's see it.
I'm showing you the book. There's the forward by Lebitard. There are some little blurbs on the back here. One by Joe Buck, one by Adam Schefter, Dwight Freeney. This is really exciting. How I convinced all these people to write a book for me is completely insane, but they did it. Diana Rossini, it's out of control. And Dan Patrick, DP, wrote a very nice thing about my book. I know. Listen,
you got them all fooled, brother.
Listen, whenever I had a certain amount of favors left in my life to call in on, I've called them all in for this book, okay? I will not bother anyone else. And McShay, if you're wondering why you didn't write anything, I promise you, chapter 11, next book, is all yours, okay?
Chapter 11, perfect.
Yeah. You don't know
That's
it yet,
right where I belong.
It. And now that me and Muench are friends, a couple of Mensches cutting it up, Muench, you're writing chapter 14. How about that?
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yes, that's a binding agreement.
Get out of here, Stugotz. Good having you, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right, I love you, dude.
See you, man.
The McShay Show is presented by FanDuel. Get out your game day gear this college football season on FanDuel, because right now, all customers get a profit boost every college football Saturday, every single Saturday. I got 3 picks for you, Muench. Not going to get into any detail. I'm just going to give you money. I'm going to hand you money. Oklahoma plus 13.5 against Alabama. Auburn plus 2.5 against A&M. And Virginia plus 9.5 versus SMU. And you probably asked the question, why? And my answer is, this is tryptophan season in college football, folks. I'm telling you, right around Thanksgiving, you're sitting in your living room, you're on mom's couch, you got the smell of the tryptophan, the cookies, the turkey is cooking, and you take a nap, right? This is the time of year in college football where like crazy stuff happens every week. Boost your winnings on bets like spreads, over-unders, method of first touchdown, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/McShay. That's FanDuel.com/McShay to download America's #1 sportsbook and kick off every college football Saturday with a boost. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. What a piece of work, huh? I mean,
amazing.
You talk about one of a kind, just leaning into who you are. So appreciate Stugotz coming on. I'm sure he appreciates being, the promotional tool that this was.
Opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. But no, always a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll have Stugotz back in certain times, but let's get to it, Muench. We got a huge game this week. We, talked about number 2 versus number 5, Indiana. We know the strength of schedule, 106. We know they've controlled every game they've played in, even Michigan, the tightest game they played in. I want to get into this game specifically. And you and I, it's always going to be about studying the tape and kind of looking at the personnel, but also like, how's it going to play out? What do we expect to see, right?
Right.
I took a deep dive in the last couple of days, into Indiana, specifically on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay.
And with the mindset of how are they going to do it against this defense? We talked about Ohio State, right? 9 different players with draftable grades. Caleb Downs is probably going to be the earliest draft pick, but it won't be in this class because he's not eligible. It'll be in 2026. Right. Could be a top 7, top 10 pick at the safety position. He's that special. So you're talking about 10 guys that we can look at right now and say are going to do something in the NFL. Indiana, it's not the case. But so I studied Indiana, like, okay, what are they going to do? And I really just dug in on Indiana offensively. I'll tell you this, they're fucking annoying. They're just annoying with their operation, right?
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
They do everything right. This probably won't play well in the Midwest, right? It kind of like it popped in my head. But you go back to like the 80s. Remember like how the American car manufacturers, all of a sudden there was Toyota and Honda, right? And all of a sudden they were just like killing us with the fact that they were producing all these cars. And it was like the big thing you see in movies and all the struggles in the Midwest, right? And they rose to prominence not because they had the sexiest cars. They didn't have the most powerful engines. They didn't have the big Ford trucks, right?
Right.
But they killed us with the efficiency of their factory. Right. And when I watch Indiana, they kill you with the efficiency of their factory. It's their operation. They do everything right. That's what I just said. So when I watch them, they block everything up. They catch everything. Those receivers don't drop anything. Most underrated wide receiver core in the country. After I went and studied every single target, I think it's the most underrated wide receiver and deep. They're in the right leverage on their routes. They catch contested catches. They're up there with, I think, the number one team in the country in terms of contested catches. And they don't have the biggest dudes. Okay, and we'll get back to the receivers, but their backs are in the correct holes. They hit the holes hard. They protect like absolute maniacs in pass pro as running backs. They've only, as an offense, fumbled the ball twice this year. Okay. Right. They're 12th as a team in turnover margin. Okay. And when I look at this offense, it's a really simple game when you play Frank Cignetti football the way the Hoosiers do.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Right? They kill you with efficiency. And so that's the thing that jumped out to me. It's like you got a quarterback in Rourke who's come in. I think he's got 46 starts, and he's like the captain of the efficiency train, if you will.
Starts right with him.
It starts right with him. Doesn't put him in a lot of bad situations. Sets the protections up well. They have a lot of the zone read stuff, and he makes the right reads. But here's what I also know. While he's smart and he limits mistakes, he can layer the ball. He's deadly accurate, right? His ball, he does a great job, like over the linebacker, before the safety, leading receivers. He does excellent timing with his receivers, like the back shoulder throws that he makes, the timing that he has with his receivers.
Right.
Okay. So all those things he does great. But here's what I do know about Rourke. When you're talking about Curtis Rourke, the quarterback, not a big arm.
Nope. Not
a threat as a runner.
Nope.
So if you're going to do it without a monster arm, if you're not Josh Allen, if you're not Lamar Jackson, if you're not Jalen Milroe with the mobility, right? If you're not Carson Beck with the mobility and the strong arm, you better win up here between your ears, okay? And my goodness, he does it. It's frustrating because I was watching. I told you when we started this, I was watching it from a defensive lens. What is Ohio State going to do? Can they just roll out their helmets and their 9 draft eligible prospects and their safety who's going to be a top 10 pick in 2026 and Caleb Downs and just, we're better than you. Our athletes are better. They're faster. They're bigger. They're stronger. We're better. And my answer after studying the tape is,
Really?
Now, we'll get to the bigger picture in all this, but I want you to understand, they're going to come out and they're going to be an 11 personnel. That's their base. 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, typically, right? More so than not. The pre-snap motion, they're going to make you as a defense declare what you're doing. Are you in zone, you in man? I think Ohio State's they mix it up, zone and man. We've seen that. We've done a deep dive into Ohio State's defensive tape. We both agree their corners are better in press man, use that physicality that they have, right? But they're going to make you declare defensively with those pre-snap motions. They're not going to come out. They're not going to tempo you a lot. Occasionally they'll mix something in when they need to, but this is not a fast pace. It's the opposite of what we've come to see in college football when it started with Chip Kelly, when it's run 100 plays. Don't care if we're in the right play. Run it. Run it. It's the opposite. It's let's get to the line. Let's check with me a little bit if we have to. Let's set the protection. Let's see what they're doing. Let's motion guys around, man or zone. Let's run the play on our clock. If Michigan's any indicator or some of the other tougher defenses, they're going to feel you out. It's going to be screens. It's going to be quick game. It's going to be running the ball inside. From a personnel standpoint, I already mentioned, the thing that surprised me the most, we're not talking about elite level receivers, but we're talking about a group that is all damn good. Like,
and they know
damn good. They know the rules. They know where to be. They know their leverages. They block for you, and they catch every. Like, I'm watching the Michigan game, and Elijah Surratt is the big guy. He's their number one receiver. He's had a phenomenal year. 685 catches, 18 yards per catch. He's number 13. He's their bigger receiver, 6'2", 209. Okay. He had a double move against Michigan it wasn't the best double move you've ever seen, but he kind of broke the corner's ankles and goes for a touchdown. But I'm watching number 5, Keyshawn Williams, who's got 12 catches, 156 the last 2 weeks. He's coming on. Right. He catches the ball. His helmet smashes against the ground. He had another catch where he's on the sideline. There's no way he was in, right? But dips his toe down at the end, catching everything, smashes his helmet on the ground. And I'm like, I haven't looked at the injury report. Is he going to be here? 2 plays later, he's back on the field. Then I watch Omar Cooper, 22 yards per catch. Little guy, not the biggest guy. Another play, just whack on the sideline, left sideline. And I'm like, he might not become like 4 or 5 plays. So, like, these guys are tough. Yeah. They're in all the right position. And then the running backs, 6, Justice Ellison was kind of the guy coming into the year. They rotate and all that. He's really good hands, only 11 catches the ball well, blocks. They both block really well. And he's a tough runner, picks up the yards that are available. But Tyson Lawton, the other guy, 17, he's gotten more carries for a reason. He's got a little bit more juice. Okay?
Yeah, they've got 2.
So I ain't saying that Indiana's got the personnel to go out and put up big numbers, but I am saying defensively, my takeaway was Ohio State better be ready for 4 quarters, because what they do is they'll efficiency you to death. Indiana will. Mm-hmm. They'll drive you crazy because they won't make mistakes. They'll block up their guys. They'll make the right reads. The receivers will make the contested catches. The running backs will hit the holes when they're open. And 17's got a little bit more juice, okay? But then all of a sudden you make one mistake and they'll pop one on you. Mm-hmm. So it's like this weird dynamic. They're not taking a lot of shots. They're not a big play. They're not tempoing you. They're not going to wear you out that way, but they'll wait for their they'll wait for their moment. And so I'm fascinated to see this matchup with Ohio State's defense. And are they able to be patient? Are they able to play discipline, gap discipline? Are they sound in the secondary? They're going to be tested in this game in a different way than you would think. Not by speed, not by size, not by strength, but by their discipline and their patience in this game will be really put to the test.
Yeah, I mean, that, just the yards per catch, some big numbers there, right? Mm-hmm. I think that speaks to Rourke's ball placement, puts it right where these guys can create after the catch. It also speaks to the fact that Ohio State's going to have to tackle well after the catch. Mm-hmm. I will say, and I want to get your take on this, were you concerned with the second half after Rourke threw the interception against Michigan? Because that's my concern. If I'm Ohio State, this is what
it was a bad interception too.
Right. I'm trying to take away his first read. So I'm trying to really take away the inside receiver first. I'm going to crowd the receivers on the outside because I think my corners can match up. And if you can force Rourke to hold on to the ball, Indiana starts to get into trouble, because as tough as that offensive line is, and as well as they play as a unit, individually, and we'll get into this a little bit more, pass protection is going to break down against the Ohio State front. We'll get into this a little bit more. And we just talked about it. He's not a guy that's going to make a lot of off-platform throws. He's not a guy that's going to, scramble for a lot of, big plays. So to me, I felt like that was concerning, that I thought the offense kind of tightened up and he wasn't as confident after that interception.
His ball placement, I put in my notes, his ball placement after that interception was not the same. And there were actually a couple throws before the interception. He went through like I don't want to call him streaky because I don't think he's streaky, but every quarterback kind of, there were moments in games. He went through like 7-8 throw stretch where like his first, 8, 9 throws, 10 throws, whatever it was were brilliant. You know,
Right.
it's just like right where you want them and layering
Effortless.
them. But yeah, he went through a little stretch. And can he? I guess the question you're asking, and I mean, only time will tell. I think the question you're asking, can he afford that same kind of 7-8 throw stretch like he did against Michigan? You know, it's not a night game. You know, it's big noon kick for Fox, and there will be a lot. You know, these Ohio State fans are used to it, and they'll be lined up the tailgating and all that. But it's not going to be the environment that it would be if it were a night game. But it's still going to be an environment, and you're still up going against those athletes. And I don't think that he can overcome that stretch against Ohio State, because the difference is Michigan's got a lot of talent on defense. Michigan doesn't have an offense. Ohio State does.
That was my point. You're not trying to keep pace with that Michigan offense. You're trying to keep pace with a Ryan Day, Chip Kelly offense that, you know, we'll get into this a little bit more about the issues up front, but with weapons everywhere. So you're trying to keep pace with that offense. The margin of error is not the same as it was against Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see. I agree with everything you're seeing in Indiana. I do worry about the talent and the matchups in certain areas.
All right, so I kind of tasked myself, if you will, with I really wanted to study how Indiana was going to match up against this outstanding defense. We've talked about it. It's not the level of like 2017 Alabama. It's not the level of like 2021, 2022 Georgia, but it's a damn good defense with a lot of NFL prospects on that defense, right?
Right.
But I also, and I don't even have to task you with it. You task yourself with it. The trenches. And I'm excited. Menches Trenches. We're going to debut it today, okay? We're going to bring it back. It's a reboot. Menches Trenches 2.0. Show me. I think we get some imaging here. Show me that stuff. Bad Birdie hat. We got to get you a sponsorship. That Bad Birdie hat.
Right.
I love it. Mensch, former offensive lineman. He handles a lot of our guys in the trenches. Great offensive line, understanding what to look for and evaluating over the years, all positions, but certainly in the offensive line. I'm curious what you saw, and it's going to be so critical, and I know we've got an injury to talk about, but the floor is yours, Mensch. It was the most popular. I think it sold the most subscriptions on ESPN.com ever, the most popular article ever. It outsold Kuiper in my mock drafts. It was a national sensation, and at some point, I think it got forgotten. But we're bringing it back. It's Menches Trenches 2.0. We will feature on this show. It's a reboot, and I want to know for this game specifically, what do you got?
Well, listen, we got to start with the injury. I mean, the news came out that the Iowa State lost their starting center, Seth McLaughlin, to a torn Achilles this week. Big loss. Well, first of all, I went back and I'm watching him on tape, and man, he's a dude. He moves really well. He's powerful. I mean, he can reach linebackers at the second level. He can get into space. He holds up in pass protection. It is a big loss for them, but I think not only are you losing now two of your three best offensive linemen, because you lost Josh Simmons to a knee injury earlier in the year. Donovan Jackson's probably your best player.
And he's a career guard, played only guard his entire career, and could be, one of the top two or three guards drafted in the upcoming draft, but they kicked him out to left tackle.
Right. So now you're on your fifth offensive line lineup. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of moving pieces, and it's concerning to me. Now, listen, you got a guy in Carson Hintzman who started 12 games at center last year. You're going to kick. It sounds like this is what's going to happen. He's been playing left guard since Donovan Jackson went to tackle. So now you're going to move him back in the center, right? Then you're going to have Austin Saraveld come in at left guard, redshirt freshman, started 2 games earlier in the year. Western Michigan and Akron. And then, I think if you were looking at this at the beginning of the year and ranking the offensive lineman for Ohio State, their right guard Shabala was probably the weakest link, for a lack of a better way of putting it. Very talented kid, moves well, big body, but he's high cut. He overextends at times. His footwork's a little consistent. So the reason I'm bringing this up is the interior offensive line of Ohio State versus the interior defensive line of Indiana is something we need to keep a close eye on in this game.
What's Indiana got?
Indiana defensive tackle CJ West is a game wrecker. Oh, man. Big, powerful, violent hands. Doesn't have a high sack number, but moves the quarterback off the spot consistently. One-on-one, he is a problem. And one of the reasons in James Carpenter, who's the guy next to him, not as strong as against the run as West, but really flashes a pass rusher. Very good hands too. He's got 4 sacks. He's a guy who can get off to the quarterback too. So you're looking at that interior offensive line. And not only that, Indiana plays a lot of games. They will twist and stunt. So, again, you have a guy who started 12 games at center at your center position now. You're at home. That should help with the communication. All that's good. They're going to throw a lot at that offensive line in the middle. And how well they adjust and pick it up is going to be interesting to see. And I'll tell you, I went back and watched, because I want to see these guys. I went back and watched Western Michigan, and I was watching Saraveld, and I was like, good run blocker. We've got some issues in pass pro. So, I mean, I'm a little concerned about him in pass pro. And then I liked the way Hinsman played against Penn State at guard last week. And then at the end of the Western Michigan game, it's a blowout. And I see Hinsman at center, and he's getting beat clean in pass pro. Jeez. And all of those things are adding up to, listen, I think, I'll be blunt about it. I think Ohio State can take advantage of the lack of depth Indiana has up front, and I think that they'll be okay. And eventually, the offensive line will play well enough for them to win this game. I do think that. But if you're looking long term, and we're talking about the playoffs eventually, this is a concern long term.
What's FanDuel got for us? What are the odds in this game? I'm interested. 13.5. Indiana is getting 13.5. minus 520 Ohio State to win. Over under 51.5. That's interesting.
Your mind is spinning. I can hear your mind spinning.
Yeah, because I look at these. Honest to God, before I really dug into Indiana and like I've watched them all season, but really studying their offense, I would have said that's the under. I kind of think the over might hit. But then
interesting
offensive line for Ohio State. And like, I do think Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, and Ryan Day, obviously, I think they're going to want to grind it out and wear them down. Wouldn't you want to wear them down and especially
100%? That's their weakness, is their depth. So
like, that scares me too. I think I think everyone's going to take 13.5. I'll be honest, after studying that tape of the offense, I'm convinced Ohio State's going to win this game. It won't shock me if this is like 10, 11-point game. You know what I mean? Like hanging around.
Like
hit
a Nebraska
couple big
game.
Plays, efficient. Ohio State kind of gets a little, I don't know. I don't know. That game's interesting.
Yeah.
Huge ramifications, obviously.
The flip side, I think that the Indiana offensive line has played really well together.
Always
in the right.
I don't see one dude there.
No,
but my goodness, like they remember we talked to Joel Klatt about like ballet or just like when the zone blocking, it's like what synchronized swimmers. They're all in the right spot. They hat for a hat, and I know it's like, okay, enough about hat.
I think you called it a Russian ballet. I like that one.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. This might be, and like there's a lot of great coach teams out there, and we got a lot of great coaches. This might be like play for play the best coached football team in the country.
Right. We keep hearing about Cignetti, and I'm like, Ryan Day's no punk. I mean, it's kind of getting overlooked. It almost feels like how good of a coach Ryan Day is.
Yeah. And I'm not matching what I'm just saying what he's been able to do in a short. This isn't like a program that's been churning for a while. What Cignetti's been able to do coming in the offseason to get them playing like this is the efficiency of this operation, this factory, like everything is just run. It's clean. It's clean. So I don't know. I kind of, if gun to head, I think I would might just take the points, but I don't know. And this is coming from a guy who says I'm not convinced that Indiana belongs in the top 12. And
I know.
So like
those injuries up front, let's be honest, if they are healthy, if they had the guys that they thought they were going to be playing up front at the beginning of the season, I'm looking at this game a lot differently. I mean, I love CJ West. He is, again, keep an eye on that defensive tackle, CJ West for Indiana. He's a good player. But I just think if they're fully healthy, and again, Donovan Jackson, I'll say this, I was encouraged by the way he played against Penn State. I mean, he's lining up against Abdul Carter.
Yes.
He's going to have another tough matchup against Mikhail Kamara, who's a
good
edge.
player.
He's a good edge coming off there too. I wouldn't put him. He's not the same athletically or explosiveness wise as an Abdul Carter, but he's going to give him a lot to handle. But make no mistake about it, Donovan Jackson is a better guard than tackle. This is a makeshift offensive line that they are trying to figure out on the run. And again, I think they have enough talent to get around. I do see Chip using a lot of, he's going to keep guys off balance with all that run pass option and the read zones. He's going to do a lot of play action. I think he'll use Will Howard in the running game. Though, by the way, the Ohio State backs, I don't know what got into them last week, but they were blocking like maniacs. They were
reminds me of like remember Ohio State years past, different regime with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Yep.
Remember
same thing. Yeah.
Just
they were taking pride.
Yeah.
So if you've got, instead of having 9 blockers, you've got 10 blockers. I think there's enough that they can do. And again, they're really good at if you're worried about your interior offensive line, get outside. And they've got, Travion Henderson is one of the most explosive backs in the country. He's not one of the most complete, but he is so explosive. And then Judkins is just a dude. I think they're going to attack the perimeter, keep them off balance with all the magic show that Chip Kelly can put on for you, and it'll be enough for them to. I think they'll cover, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and Indiana's run defense has been sensational.
Yeah, those linebackers fly around. Again, gap sound, always in the right place. Sound tacklers, tough. All the things that you would think
their
about
yards. I saw some stat this week. They've given up 31 rushing yards before contact. The next best was like 150 or something crazy.
Yeah.
Think about that. They're like 31 yards. So if they're going to have to earn it, if history's any indication, like Henderson, Judkins, Will Howard, they're going to have to, you got to break tackles and force missed tackles if you're going to do it against this Indiana team, unless they're just completely overwhelmed with this offensive front. So love the Mensches Trenches 2.0, the reboot. Good to have
love
it back.
Graphic.
FanDuel, I'm not going to get into a big thing. I've won the pool 2 weeks in a row. I've gone 12-2 in college football picks the last 2 weeks. Okay. All right. And we pounded FanDuel last week. I'm just going to throw them out there. I don't need a big applause. I don't need any imaging. I'm just going to say we want to reward you for watching this show and listening to this show. And we appreciate everyone who has downloaded, subscribed, spread the word. We're trying to make it here, but this is one way we can help out. I got 3 picks for you, Mensch. Not going to get into any detail. I'm just going to give you money. I'm going to hand you money.
Let's
go. Oklahoma plus 13.5 against Alabama. Love that. Because it doesn't make any sense. It should be 20, 21, 22. Alabama, you get the sense that they found their way. Like they're going to finish.
I feel like you're stealing that one from the Bear.
2 of them I stole from the Bear, I think, and I'm fine with it. But I didn't steal it from the Bear.
I got to steal from, man.
But intelligent players know where the plays are. Yeah. I'm not taking his Colorado BYU. Or no, Colorado, Kansas. Yeah. But that one is fishy too. So keep an eye out on that. Bear. And of course, Stugotz, get out of here with your college picks. Your NFL picks, well, listen, they're documented, but get out of here with your college picks. Auburn plus 2.5 against A&M.
Yeah.
And Virginia plus 9.5 versus SMU. And you probably asked the question, why? And my answer is, this is tryptophan season in college football, folks. I'm telling you, right around Thanksgiving, you're sitting in your living room, you're on mom's couch, you got the smell of the tryptophan, the cookies, the turkey is cooking, and you take a nap, right? This is the time of year in college football where like crazy stuff happens every week.
Right.
We're going in the only big game. Well, we've got Army, Army Notre Dame later, but the big game everyone's looking at is number 2 Ohio State hosting Indiana, number 5. Everything else is kind of like, we'll get on to next week. These are the weeks. Tryptophan.
Yeah.
Watch it. Okay. Alabama's going to get a scare. A&M is going to be in a dogfight versus Auburn. SMU's got everything going for it, right? They had a scare last week. Maybe they don't go wrong. Virginia's shown some signs of life. So those are the 3 picks. Oklahoma plus 13.5. Auburn plus 2.5. Virginia plus 9.5. Sorry, FanDuel. I mean, I'm just sorry.
That's a new segment. Sorry, FanDuel.
Thursday staples. Let's get to it. That's my guy, right? We love That's my guy. We've knocked it down to one per week. These are guys that we're watching tape on. They stand out. We want to plant the flag on them early. Doesn't have to be, I'd rather not first round guys, but can be first round guys, can be late round guys, can be undrafted free agents. Let's start with you, Muench. What do you got? That's my guy.
I got Minnesota. No surprise here. Offensive tackle. Minnesota offensive tackle, Aireontae Ersery. Big guy. 6'6", 330 pounds. Listen.
First rounder, I guess.
There's some bad tape.
Okay.
He is a guy who only played 1 year of high school football. Or didn't play until his junior, so 2 years of high school football. I apologize. Okay. And he's been a 3-year starter at Minnesota, but I think he's still a little bit raw. And there's some times where guys can get into his pads a little bit. He can sustain in the run game. So why is he my guy? You don't find dudes who move like that at that size. His lateral quickness is impressive to me. He's a guy, once it all comes together in terms of technique, he's gonna be a starter in the league.
Draft the traits at offensive line.
Right. And I'll say this. I did kind of break the rule. You're right. I think most years he would be a day 2 guy. I think he'd be a day 2 pick. He reminds me of Abraham Lucas, the kid who came out of Washington State. If you remember, Abraham Lucas that year had a bad rep at the Senior Bowl where he got ran over, speed to power. And everyone's like, this guy can't play. And he's turned into a decent player when he's been healthy. He went in the 3rd round. This year, Ersery might sneak into the 1st round. He tests as well as we think he could. He could sneak into the 1st round because I just don't think it's a great offensive tackle class.
Okay. I'm going to go the other side of the ball. And I want to feature guys right now that I think who we're going to be watching on Saturdays. What are the big stories? Colorado, obviously one of the big stories. And it's not what you would think. The wide receivers, there's some players there. Obviously, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. But I want to go with a guy that I think just keeps getting overlooked. Okay? Cameron Silmon-Craig is a safety. Started out at Jackson State with the rest of them, right? Transferred over. First year at Colorado last year, making the big jump in level of competition. Tied with Travis Hunter with 3 interceptions.
Right.
Big playmaker, okay? 4th on the team in tackles with 44. Second year he comes back, doesn't have the interceptions yet, but he's leading the team in tackles. And I've seen the confidence build in this guy. What I love about him, the leadership. My goodness. Like you got Travis Hunter. You got Shiloh Sanders at the safety, same position on that team. Coach's son, Coach Prime's son. You got Shedeur Sanders. But like, if you kind of look around and you talk to people, like the dog, like the alpha is Silmon-Craig.
The passion is obvious.
Oh,
he loves playing the game, man.
So like best case, I'm not saying he's going to be this guy, but like I always try to, especially with day 3 guys, like I don't even think he can get to the level necessarily, but like what does he remind you of? Who's the NFL comp? I think Jordan Poyer is that type of player.
Ooh, I actually love that comp.
5'11", 185, undersized, but just a dog. Like loves being. He's versatile. He loves being around the line of scrimmage, even though he has no business in that frame being around the line of scrimmage. Gets off of blocks, instincts, shoots gaps. He's like, I'm a Yellowstone guy, and I had to kind of get off of it. Now I'm a Landman guy. I like Sheridan, the director, producer, whatever his role is. I like his stuff. But when you watch those movies, or if anyone who's around it, and I spent one day out at a Wyoming game and sat on a horse, and I actually owned a horse with Portnoy Elliott.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
We owned a horse. I didn't realize until I had a part ownership in a horse. Smoke Show City, our horse. I didn't realize I was allergic to fucking horses. I didn't know. So now I've got 25%. I got 25% ownership in a horse, and I find out that I'm allergic. And I didn't think it was that bad. And then me and Steve Levy and Brian Greasy went and we did a bit for the open of our game. It was with Josh Allen there. It was the Mountain West Conference Championship. Okay. So the day before we go to this rodeo and we're sitting on horses to do an open for the show.
You're breaking out.
I literally had to walk out of the indoor facility there, and my face goes like, now I'm sitting in the back like a ambulance patient. They're racing me to like a CVS to get me like Benadryl. I didn't know if I was going to be. It finally calmed down. I took a lot of medicine that night. But my point is, I don't have a lot of great experience with lassoing. boy, did I get off topic there. But Silmon-Craig, like when you watch those shows, or if you've been around, like how quick the lasso goes on, and all of a sudden it's like,
yep.
As a tackler, I love this guy.
He
comes out of nowhere. He'll face you up, but a lot of times he gets to your feet, takes your legs, and just like snaps you off. And it's like watching all of a sudden, like someone get like shot in the Achilles, like boom, they go down.
Yeah.
He's a great tackler. So if nothing else, like special teams, backup role, I think as a day 3 player, his tape against Baylor, 14 tackles. The sack he had, a huge sack against Kansas State. Just the emotional leader. There's a lot of little things that add up to a guy on day 3 that you can trust is going to come in and find a way to contribute.
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
Man.
Keep an eye when you're watching Colorado now. Talked about the Kansas game. Hopefully, just for the excitement of college football. Hopefully, get into that Big 12 championship and can get in the college football playoff. But he's the guy to keep an eye on, number 7 on that defense. Also, but. Where are the scouts this week? We touched on Indiana and Ohio State, and I do think those Indiana receivers, 2 of them are draft eligible this year. I think the Indiana receivers are going to get more love than people expect. I think it's grossly underrated what they've been able to do. You talked about West on the defensive line. You talked about Kamara on the defensive line. They've got some guys. It's just not at the level when you compare them to the other teams in the top 10. But Indiana, Ohio State will be one where the scouts are. Where's it? Give me another one.
Boston College, North Carolina, I think is kind of under the radar because neither team is ranked. I mean, and anytime you get to watch Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina, you're going to have, it's worth it. But they also have 2 edge defenders. There's one from Boston College, Donovan Ezeuruko. I think I'm saying that right. Ezeuruko, who has 14 tackles for loss. He is very active, very disruptive. He's all over the Virginia Tech tape. All over it. North Carolina has a guy named Kamon Rucker who was injured earlier in the year, but has been very productive since he's come back. Another guy you want to keep an eye on.
I got another one where the scouts have to be this week.
Where's that?
135th edition of the Capital Cup. The scouts are going to be flooding to Robbins Stadium, the campus of University of Richmond. What a great game. Hey, the all-time record in this, Richmond versus William and Mary. I got ahead of myself.
I was wondering if you had it. Yep.
135th edition of the Capital Cup. All-time record, Richmond 65, William and Mary 64, and 5 ties. You talk about a balanced history between these 2 powerhouses. I'll give you a prospect, and you can cover our alma mater, Richmond. William and Mary, though, they've got the prospect. Charles, fair and balanced. Charles Grant, 6'4", 300, little undersized. But what an athlete. What an athlete. I've studied his tape. Lean, athletic. He's a 3-year starter at left tackle. He's got experience, obviously not the highest level. Got invited. He was actually the first. Jim Nagy was there. But Charles Grant, 6'4", 300, lean but athletic, moves really well. Invited to the Senior Bowl. Could be the top small school prospect in 2025.
Could be a day 2 guy.
Could be day 2. We're talking like potentially second round. I think it's going to be a huge week, obviously. Anytime the small school guys get an opportunity at the Senior Bowl against some of the big-time prospects, that's when we see them rise. And Jim was on with us, talked about the North Dakota State, the lineage of offensive linemen who have gone to that game and have risen from 4th to 2nd round, 5th to 3rd round. Like I think Charles Grant has an opportunity to do that. Run-heavy zone scheme. They're like 65-35 run pass. But great range as a run blocker, a lot of developmental upside in pass protection as well. So keep an eye on that when you're studying and watching on the couch Saturday, the 135th edition of the Capital Cup. What's Richmond got, Muench?
Well, I had to call our guy, offense coordinator, Winston October. I was like, give me a name. Yeah, I talked to him last night. And of course, you think you're going to be on the phone for about 5-10 minutes. And then Winston's just, I'm like trying to take notes. My hand's cramping. He's so excited about this game, so excited about the year. And it's always good to hear from the old teammates, man. He's such a positive guy. But the guy he kept bringing up was Zach Palmer-Smith, their running back. He is 2nd in the CAA in rushing yards and rushing yards per game at 104.2. 6 foot, 205. This kid runs behind his pads. He doesn't need much of a crease. He's patient. He's instinctive. And Winston just kept raving about the work ethic, is how humble he is. This is kind of kid doesn't want to take any reps off. in practice, wants to get many reps as he can in practice, runs hard every time he gets the ball. And, I thought one of the more interesting quotes was he was at Wagner. He's a Wagner transfer, and he had never really won anywhere, and he wanted to go somewhere he could win. So he went to Richmond, my kind of player.
I love that. And they've won 8 in a row, just won they clinched the CAA. And all right, so now we've worn out Richmond, William and Mary. But no, that's great. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up where we always do on Thursdays. Where would Todd be this week? Columbus, Ohio, born and raised that area, and went to Ohio State. We got it. We've done the SEC, beautiful place. We've talked about Auburn with Acre Restaurant. We talked about the unbelievable restaurant situation in Athens, Georgia with Chuck's Fish. We've done Baton Rouge. Brandon Landry stepped up with the greatest all-time trip to Baton Rouge and all the places that he would go and the sites and tailgating things that you have to do. This week in Columbus, Ohio, let me explain this to you, Muench, okay? I grew up, I've told you, my grandfather, Marshall Brown, got me into college football. He worked with Bo Schembechler. He's recruiting coordinator in Northeast Ohio, the Sandusky area, okay? And so I grew up with an intimate knowledge of this rivalry. And he was a Michigan fan living in Ohio, which wasn't always the easiest thing, right?
Right.
And so like the pranks they would play on one another, the like intensity of the rivalry, and they would be friends for 51 weeks of the year, but for it legitimately got weird sometimes. Like maybe a couple of cocktails too many, doing some weird stuff. There was a toilet one year that was ripped out and put on top of a chimney. I found out this story 10 years ago after my grandfather passed. He ripped out a toilet in someone's house, an Ohio State fan's house, and put it on top of the chimney. So the rivalry runs deep. There's some weird stuff. But Columbus, Ohio, it is a very different feel Columbus it's a very different feel from the SEC, okay? It's more of like a lunch pail business trip. Weather's cold. We're hardened. We got to come in. And we're gonna dine on Friday night, but we're fueling for Saturday, and we're going to war, right? So it's different than the Southern hospitality and all that. I'm not saying wonderful people, but they are united as one, as a front. So with that as the backdrop, every time I go to Ohio State, ESPN would put us up in certain hotels and all that, but you get to a point where you kind of try to pick your spots, and doing some pro days over the years, able to pick our own hotel. The Blackwell Hotel, I'm not saying but I'm saying it's right there. It's on campus. If you can make reservations, if you're going to make a trip to Columbus for a game day weekend, try to stay at the Blackwell Inn, okay? Because it's right there on campus, right by High Street where all the action is. And you feel like you're a part of it the whole time, instead of staying out at a different hotel kind of out of the way.
Right.
Here's my suggestion. And there's not a lot of history with the restaurants and all that stuff. And so I'm not going to spend time here overselling something but I'm telling you, Columbus is, I believe last time I checked, the 14th largest city in America. And I didn't realize that.
I had no idea.
Big ass city. Okay. And so it's not like when you go into the Grove at Ole Miss, it's this tiny little town where everyone knows everyone. It's not like Auburn, Alabama.
Right.
It's not like Athens, Georgia. It's a different vibe. So you're going into a city, but again, lunch pail, we're going to work. So on Friday, you fly in early. Some great golfing there if you can do it, but that's not what this trip is about. This trip is about getting to work, okay? You get in early, you got to have a lunch. Let's go play someplace with good vibes, energy. Forno. I don't know if we have the menu here, but I love going to Forno. Every pro day I go to right after, I'll go to Forno. There's energy, there's excitement there. You can see what I love. There's just a lot of different things on this menu, but I love cozying up at the bar. It's loud in there. They've got the screens on. And I'm not going entree here because I got a big dinner, but I am going to put on probably 1,500 to 2,000 calories, Muench. You and I, we do a lot of this after games, Senior Bowl, Combine, when you and I dine well. And a lot of times I'll force you and you'll be like, well, I want that entree. And I'm like, let's get 9 appetizers and different things. What jumps out to you there? Because I'm going to tell you what I would roll out.
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I had the exact same thought. I was like, I want to make sure that we bring 2 or 3 people so it's not embarrassing that we get every one of them. I'm going to get, I want the arancini. I want the crispy rice. I want the burrata.
Nailed it.
The warm ricotta and the ahi tuna tacos. And that's just the highlights for me. I really want to try.
I'm going to get the meat. I've had the meatball. You got to get the meatballs there too. The meatballs are good. So, and they've got a great oven there. They make their own dough there, fresh. It's, in-house every day. They've got a huge, like they take a lot of pride. So we're going to finish it off with a pizza. One of the, like the prosciutto stuff. Listen to this: ricotta, fontina, arugula, onion, olive oil with white balsamic reduction. Like they're not messing around. This isn't like, can we have a pepperoni pizza? Can we have the meat? Can we have the meat lovers? Like this is no joke. So that's where you start off for lunch. All right, cozy up to the bar, get some screens in the background. Dinner is about, and again, it's different in the Midwest. It's about, if you're in the Midwest, you got to go out and you have to have a steak dinner. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're in Columbus before a game, it's kind of about going out like, all right, where's the alumni going to be? Where's Eddie George going to be? If not at his restaurant, if Urban Meyer's in town, if Herb Street's in town, where are the people going to be?
Yeah.
The atmosphere. Okay. Where's the crew going to be? Where's Klatt and Gus Johnson? Like, where are they? So it's like Hyde Park is the place that everyone, like I was texting with Urban yesterday. He was telling me, and I got to pull up because he'll yell at me. I was texting with Urban yesterday, and I said, it's still Hyde Park. He goes, no, it's it's the Urban Meyer Pint House. He said, and he followed that with WTF. Like, come on. But I know this, his favorite restaurant that is, and I said, but Hyde Park's still your favorite restaurant that doesn't have your name on it, but it has his name in it. This is the only weird part for me, Mensch.
Right.
Hyde Park is one of the, and it's become a chain. It's spread out, and there's different places, mostly like in the Midwest, one or two in Florida. But when I look at Hyde Park, the only thing that's a little weird is I'm not in love with eating like your friends' names on a steak.
Right.
You get the Ryan Day steak, the Kirk Herbstreit steak, the Urban Meyer steak. It's like, hey, what's up? Hey, Urban, I had your steak last night. Herbie, I had your steak, but it goes to show like this is the place to be. Okay.
Right.
And it's a classic steakhouse, but phenomenal food. Their steaks are second to none. Pick out what's your menu here. I'm starting with the Wagyu beef carpaccio.
Yep, absolutely. I'm a sucker for a crab cake, so I would probably get the crab cakes as well.
The thick cut bacon, I've had it before. Oh,
but the carpaccio is a must. I agree on that one. And then, do you want me to get into the entree or?
Yeah, go ahead. Pick a steak. What are you doing?
If I was 10 years younger, it would be the scarlet and gray. I mean,
Tell us about it. Can you see?
40-ounce long bone tomahawk ribeye.
That's the 295 version of Mensch.
Oh God, I just can't do it anymore. But I'm gonna go a little heavy. I'll go with the Ryan Day. The 36 day dry aged bone-in ribeye. Heavily marbled. When I read those words, heavily marbled, I start to salivate. I mean, 26 ounces, not out of control, but that's a big piece of meat that I would kill that steak.
All right. So now we've fueled up. We've had a good lunch, a lot of energy, gone probably back to the hotel, taken a little bit of nap you sat at the bar for a few hours and then you go out to dinner. You have like an 8:00 dinner, home by 11:30. The difference here, like we're not going bar hopping at night. You're not like, it's different than the SEC in some regards, but the SEC, the tailgating in both places, that's the similarity. The tailgating in both places, the SEC, the Big Ten, like very different layout, different atmosphere, but the level of passion with the tailgate is absolutely similar. Here's what I'm going to tell you on game day. Here's how we got to approach this. So we've gotten a decent night's sleep back in the hotel by like 11:30, sleep until 6 a.m., but get up and be ready. Okay. Get your gear ready. Make sure you get your hand warmers, you get your gloves. This time of year, you can see your breath. The first thing you'll notice when you're coming in, whether you're driving down with your grandfather as a kid from Michigan to Columbus, and you're driving in like through the neighborhoods as you get to the Olatangi River, the first thing you're going to notice, and it's a tradition both in Michigan and in Ohio State, when you wake up in the morning, you better fly your flag. I'm telling you, it is an unbelievable scene. Like, you can drive through the smallest neighborhood in Ohio or Michigan, near Ann Arbor, it doesn't matter what part of the state, the flag is flying. It is a tradition. Like, I get goosebumps thinking about like how, like, my grandfather up at 5 a.m, like flying that flag. Okay. So you'll notice as you're driving it, your first time ever going to a big time game at Ohio State, flags are flying from cars, from buildings, houses, everywhere. If you don't have a pole, you hang them off the side of your house. They're everywhere. Right. Okay. So that it kind of, as you're driving in, you kind of get in the mood. Okay. Then you drive in droves of fans, scarlet and gray, OHIO, right? And they're walking the banks and the bridges of the Olatangi River. Everyone coming in all geared up, right? Scarlet and gray for as far as the eye can see. Then you get into town, okay? And I obviously working a lot, and when I was a kid, I couldn't do this, but the tradition is kegs and eggs. And it started with the Michigan game because it was always a noon kick. That's the tradition. Now you got big noon kick for Fox, and we've heard some frustration from the fans, but the rules still apply. Big game, noon kick. All the restaurants and bars, Mensch, open up real early in the morning. That's why you got to get to sleep the night before. Okay. Right. So it's kegs and eggs in all these places. Okay. And I'm telling you, from the varsity club to Outer Inn, out-r-inn, Outer Inn, to the library, which has been around since Woody Hayes days, to the Homage Bar, to the Parlay Sporting Club. There's no shortage in Columbus. There is no shortage of watering holes with TV screens. I promise you that. High Street. So get there early. I don't care if you get up at 6, be there like 7:30. Get in there early. Enjoy the scene, like just the vibe, the scarlet and gray, the OHIO chants. But then you better get to the tailgating, okay? You walk over, and again, it's professional. It is not fancy. It is not the Grove. We don't have chandeliers here. This is blue collar. This is Midwest. We got brats, we got burgers, smoke everywhere. Like we're not putting down white tablecloths. We're not. And honestly, if you're a Michigan fan, it ain't like one of these sweet places with all the Southern hospitality. Like, don't come over here. Don't, we got other lots down the street. Get out. Okay. Right. So it's a different mentality. Right. But then the thing is, you better get your work done. Like, get to the kegs and eggs, get to the tailgate, get fed, because when you're in there, there's no leaving at halftime. There's no going to the concession. I want you, like, I've had the honor and privilege of doing, 15, 20 Ohio State games over like 12 years. We did like 5 in 1 year. What always blows my mind is, like, there's not in between quarters, blowout, no one's getting up. So whatever fuel you need from lubricants to food, you better get done in that tailgate, okay? Because that's got to last you 3.5 hours. So you get into the stadium, and these people get in early. Like, I remember putting on my mic, getting my mic pack ready, walking around talking as they're warm. The kickers are kicking in pregame. They're roaring in early. They want to see it all, okay? So you get in the stadium, you're bundled up. You see your breath. It's a business trip. Totally different vibe, as I said. But when we kick off, and even before, but when we kick off, it is awesome. Yeah. It's awesome, man. Like, and I was a Michigan fan growing up, so my grandfather hated it, and I had, root for Michigan, but like, you got to respect it. Yeah. From the script, Ohio, like the way that they in unison, how they work year round, the things that they're able to do in unison. We talk about offensive lines, like, it's wild to see how efficient they are. Dotting the I, a tradition since 1936 at Ohio State, okay? Then you're in the stadium, and it's not like, you walk down the street in the Olatangi, and you're walking in, and it's like, OHIO. But in the stadium, they'll start one section, like, let's say the northeast corner will go, oh, and then another section, this different side of the stadium, H, and then another section, I can't do the things. Oh, okay. And so he goes around the stadium, right? Throughout the day, those OHIO chants, and then they do the swaying to the Carmen, Ohio, right? Everyone's swaying, all in unison, 103,000 people, okay? And then finally, and I know it's more of a new tradition, but throughout the game, you can't get the White Stripes 7 Nation Army out of your head for like 5 hours after a game, going back to your hotel or getting on a plane to fly out. It's and the whole like 103,000 fans doing it. So I love it, man. I just love the traditions. I miss being out there at games. We'll get the show on the road next year. I'll get you out to a couple of games. But yeah, Ohio State is absolutely one of the special places in all of college football. And if you're thinking about making a trip there, even not as an Ohio State fan, but just as a fan of college football, that's a pretty good jumping off point at what you can do. Yeah. That's all I got, Mensch. What do you got?
That's great, man. I'm just soaking it in. I got to get out there and see it.
All right. Fired up for this weekend. Listen, Saturday, please come. Go Spiders. Yep. And when you're done with the Spiders game and you're done with the Ohio State Indiana game and you're done with the Army Notre Dame game, come join us. It's after that primetime game. We're going to be live on YouTube. Our favorite show of the week. It's the Saturday reaction show here on the McShay Show. And join us there, and then we'll be back next week. But this is a huge week. I'm telling you. Tryptophan college football season. Some crazy shit is going to go down. I'm excited for it. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. Or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.